The new Photoshop beta and Adobe Firefly is fire, but it's also fly. Welcome to App Design Tips. I'm going to show you how you can use Photoshop beta and Firefly within Photoshop to generate things that don't exist within your photo. And specifically for this video, I actually have a few images here of a home that I was supposed to take pictures for, but this home has not been furnished. So originally we were trying to schedule getting it furnished before the pictures were taken, but there was some conflict in scheduling. And this is a home in Mazatlan, Mexico. So one thing we decided to do was go ahead and take those pictures and just try Adobe Firefly and just pray and hope that it works. And later, once it is furnished, we would retake those pictures. But for here, this is the image that I started with. Now we have some couches and some things in the image here. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice to have an entertainment center right here and a TV and some decorations here to just help it feel more homey? So let's just run through what I did here. So the first thing is I try to remove this couch. So I can do this with spot removal, and it can take me quite a bit of time just going through and clone stamping a bunch of stuff out and spot removing. And especially with this tile, it would be very challenging. But instead, I just lasso. And when we lasso this, we can click on generative fill, and usually you can give a prompt. But in this case, I wanted to just remove it and just have what's behind it showing, so I just tried to click generate. Now, one of the things to keep in mind here is when I did this, it would generate some random things here, so it's trial and error. I try again, it gives me a funky looking couch, but really I'm just trying a few different steps here. And with this specific scenario, because there's a lot to chunk through what's behind there, I ended up settling with something that had a smaller footprint here, and then I would lasso a smaller area and then a smaller area and then a smaller area, just to finally get the end result that I wanted. So something like this. And again, it's not perfect, but we're going to have an entertainment center and a rug and things here too. So this has done a really great job. I just hit generate and straightened that baseboard here. And one thing to keep in mind when you're lassoing is I try to lasso the approximate geometry of where that would be within the perspective of the image. And I think that helps it, the least amount of pixels that you can select within that area. I think it might help do a better job, but also there's some times where you want to give it a little bit more space. And so I'll walk through what I'm doing here. And after I did that, I just picked the area that I'd want the rug, and notice that I removed a little bit of the feet on the couch there. So if you give a little bit of overlap to the certain areas, I find that it does a good job knowing that you want those kept in there and putting the rug underneath these areas. So you can be a little bit rough, but it's always trial and error. So feel free to just click generate a few different times. Like for example, this area rug that just throws in some sort of stool there that's blended into the rug. But I'm just trying a few different times, and sometimes you have to give it a different type of prompt. So it's not something that you click, boom, the entire room is furnished. You have to, I think if you selectively choose the different decor and furniture and things that you want, it can do a better job. So the geometry of this rug did really good, but it's not the style that I'm going for. So because it's Mazatlan, I want a Mexican styled rug here. So I found this one to be good. And another thing that I do here is sometimes if it does overlap, like for example across the entertainment center, you can use the masking and just remove a little bit of that and just clean a little bit of it up, and which is a little bit of work. You can make it believable. So with this TV, for example, I framed in the area where I thought I'd want the size of the TV. So you can see that lasso here. That's probably a 55-inch or a 60-inch TV there. But by choosing that, it's going to create an overlap as well. So it's going to give me a smaller TV than I'd like. So now I have to create a bigger area and just give it room to have the shadows and to add that texture within there. And then I'm just trying to find something that's believable. In this case, I did just scale it up. When you scale it up, you'll notice that you'll see a little bit of the change within the wall, for example. So that's not quite believable. But again, you can just select the mask and brush that out. So really good to be able to have the Photoshop capabilities with AI. Things like Mid-Journey, you generate the image and it's the entire image. If it doesn't look good, you generate the entire image again. And with the power of Photoshop within here, I think it's so nice to be able to have AI that can fill the surroundings, even the shadows of the TV, for example. It gets a sense of where the lighting is and does a really good job at approximating the shadows and even the perspective and the geometry. It just does really awesome. So here I just put plant on entertainment center. You can see that it's baking it in, so you have to be a little bit more specific here. So I put small potted plants so that I know that I want the plant. Again, I shrunk it down, just did some masking, and look how good it does with these end tables here. So I just put 2 squares, and that square even overlapped that couch, and just put end tables. And within there, it knows that that end table has to be behind the couch. It already does the masking and regenerates the couch in front of there. Just does an awesome job. So in this case, I don't quite like the placement of it. It would be nice to just move this right and left, and that would be so cool if that was something in the future that you could take something and just move it and then it would regenerate a similar image to that in that position. That would be amazing. But for right now, this is beta, this is the start, and AI always gets better and better and better. So just to have it this good right out the gate, the future is very promising. So here's where I just selected a little bit wider range here and put end tables. So those are very believable end tables. Even the shadows that it's showing there, it just does an awesome job. Now I'm doing an approximate geometry of where I'd like to have a coffee table. So I'm going to put that in here. This one I want it to be a little bit larger, so again I just mask around it. And this is one that was challenging. This curtain here, I wanted to have a curtain rod and curtains. And initially there were some ideas here that I kind of liked. I kind of liked something like this, but it didn't have the rod. So what I was trying to do was select the area and have it assume that I would need a rod. And so then I chose a bigger area to see if it could add that rod in there, but it ended up just adding curtains on top and left and right. That's not what I wanted. So in the end, I just selected that skinny little line on top and just put curtain rod, and then decided to add curtains on both ends. A little bit of trial and error on each of these just to find the style that you want. Maybe if I was better at the prompts, it would do a little bit better. I ended up liking these, and again, I can just scale, I can mask, and I can make it believable. So that's what I'm doing here. There we go. And I'm going to try to find some Mexican wall art here. So in this case, I just found an image of a product that I liked. So another thing that you can do, especially with flat art, is just select this and just add some perspective just by transforming it a little bit. But also, I know how to draw in shadows on wall art, and that's pretty simple. But even being able to select below this and just type in subtle shadow and have that generate for you, I think that's really cool to have that do that within a few clicks. Now here I want to have a tall plant, so I'm selecting a little bit of the couch too, and I'm going to assume that it's just going to place that behind the couch like it's done before. And every time that I do this, there's 3 options that it'll generate, so you can cycle between. If it misses the first one, you can cycle between different options or just try again. So I'm trying another plant here. It's not doing that great. It seems to be tucking it like directly against the wall. I would like to have more space, but just again, trial and error. Sometimes like this funky plant right here, it's pretty funny how it can create a nice looking plant and then it just puts like a giant leaf in there, just assuming that that's a natural part of the plant. But that's AI. It's getting better and better. Here there's this little food tray that I just masked, and then I added the shadow back in. I was thinking it would be cool to have like a tray with candles, but after I tried it out, I didn't really like it, so I'm just adding a few shadows to the pot and just adding some vases, some decoration to the end tables. And then here I was trying to find a good wood sculpture of a horse. In this case, I wanted it to look left, so I tried to change the prompt to say facing left. Still didn't do a great job. I put laying down. That one was a little bit believable, but I did end up just finding a product on Google and just placing that in. And again, one thing that I did here is I selected the horse and then I inverted the selection and just selected just the area outside the horse, which you can see here. And this is where I add again subtle shadow. And this subtle shadow is not 100% believable, but this is something that I can use that masking and just make that shadow a little bit less prominent on the wall right here and just change that up. And especially at this view right here, I think if you were cycling between the images right here, just the lifelike nature of this generated AI and just a little bit of trial and error, I think initially looking at this, you're not going to tell that any of this wasn't here. Now, if you do zoom into certain areas here, you can obviously tell some of the resolution is different between each one, and there's some things that you might want to go in there and fix, like this. I could fix that pretty easily, fix this little artifact right here. But just having this as a start and looking at this, you would never tell this was generated with Firefly unless you're like pixel peeping and seeing what the heck this is. And even with this, for example, some of that blurriness right there, this is what I do. Just select that masked layer and just select my brush. And this is where I just have the flow 100%. And you can just kind of erase those things out just to make it a little bit more believable. And just play with that. We're adding a little bit more texture into the wall. So this is the first time I've used Firefly on an actual project, and something that I did send to my friend. He loves the end result, and this is something that can also give an idea to the interior decorator when they do go in and furnish and add decorations. They can see the concept of what that would look like and the placement to make sure that they do similar decoration. And obviously staging it first and taking pictures are going to be the best solution, but when you're in a pinch like this, to be able to have this functionality and this capability within Photoshop is just amazing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to subscribe and click that bell icon for more videos.